I have two things to do today. One, of course, I will need to do some advertisement for this Eco Expo. Not that I worry the turnout, but I worry that you will be missing the boat if you do not act fast. Well, the comfort is being drawn from so many people sitting in this room, particularly those sitting around the head table, that last year I have seen so many Council General coming to me, bringing their business sector representative, talking to me during the time they come to do the trade show. So the interest is tremendous. And to get particular with the trip I made in recent months to North America, Japan for the second time, Australia, there are increasing focus on Hong Kong, whether Hong Kong is the place where they can do green businesses. So I believe that with just a few months ahead of the Expo, it might be useful for us to sit down and chat about it. Now, the second thing I'll do is I'll give you a presentation. As the Secretary for the Environment, I'm conscious in promoting recycling. So what you will be seeing is nothing new. It's in fact the same script that I've been using when I do my recent trip overseas. But I see no reason why I shouldn't repeat that for the audience, which is at home, to capture some of the essential features that are around us, but perhaps may not be in such a perspective. So my message is very, very simple. Is Hong Kong the green city? Are we green enough? Can we make Hong Kong and the Pearl River Delta the greenest part of China? If that's the case, what opportunity it will bring to you and me for people in this room? Okay? So I'll go over very briefly the presentation I made in overseas as a kick-off for more question and answers, because, well, today's turnout is much better than I have thought. So I believe that you will have some questions or some views to express. So I will go straight to the point very quickly, but allow some time for question and answers. Would that be okay? Okay. Now, when we say Hong Kong is a green city, in particular when I go out to visit some of your countries, I'm using these figures not to sort of boast about or blow our own trumpet how good we are, but just to compare. When we say Hong Kong is a green city, because in terms of carbon footprint, we have the per capita carbon emission of 6.7 tons, which compare quite favorably with countries or cities of similar economic status. I understand Singapore is 9 tons, Japan is about 12, UK about 12, Canada about 26, US about 24. These comparisons is by no means a complacency for Hong Kong, because comparing 6.7 tons per capita footprint with what a lot of scientists advocate for the global average, if we were to tackle climate change, 2 tons is still a long, long way to go. But the way how we manage to, with a smaller carbon footprint, in spite of the robust economic status that we have achieved, is largely contributed by 90% of our commuting done on public transport. 40% of our land actually now will come to 42 or 43 with the designation of new country parks. 40% of our land are actually protected under the country park ordinance. In fact, as a city, the urban built-up area is no more than 25%, and our parks are natural, true nature reserve instead of man-made parks. And of course, last year we managed to recycle 48%, which is a good start, but it's simply not good enough. So I think those figures, on the one hand, give us a little bit sense of comfort that what we have been doing is in the right direction, but clearly, there's still a long, long way to go. When we look out from where we see our sky, when we go out to public housing estate, seeing sort of how we dispose our waste, there's still a lot of things that we need to do. So by going green, in fact, in the last 2 years, the government has been very anxious in presenting a green agenda as the key government policy. This is a policy which is not just the portfolio of the Environment Bureau. It is the whole government's policy. And that's why people who understand our system know that in the last 2 years, we have quite a large number of policy initiatives. able to find space in the Chief Executive Policy Address, which is the major document, which has given us not just policy support, but also resources commitment. So a number of features would help us to build Hong Kong into a much greener city. It's the determination to go for cleaner energy. 2 years ago, I told the Hong Kong community that we adopt a new system where we engage our power company through the renewal of the scheme of control where carrot and stick are being built in. In 2008, we have moved a big step forward, not just by imposing requirements or tightening caps, but also help the companies in finding a cleaner source of energy as a fuel for our electricity. So the plan is to move from the current 26% using natural gas to 50% in the decade to come, and perhaps more. We have long been criticized for an antiquated air quality objective, which is the planning guideline for Hong Kong's development. That piece of document has been dated. So tremendous effort has put in moving on to reflect the public aspiration for cleaner air. And I hope in 2 months' time, I'll be rolling out a major consultation engaging the public by presenting a proposal of a new set of air quality objectives, which will benchmark WHO guidelines. And I have been telling the community that there is no way that we are satisfying with any lower standard, because the proposal made by the consultant will at least have half of the 7 pollutants benchmarking the ultimate WHO guidelines. With the remaining half, is not because of lack of commitment, but other sort of geographical constraint that will take time to take up sort of step efforts in doing it stage by stage. So by the last quarter of this year, I think I would intend to have the entire community coming to have a consensus with government how to sort of move to even cleaner air in the next decades. So that will be coming. In previous occasions, particularly in the last 2 years, I mentioned that we have also made a major breakthrough whereby Hong Kong people vote by their money, that Hong Kong taxpayers' money amount to $93 million has been engaged in cleaning up the production in Pearl River Delta. This is a proposal initiated by some of our industrialists, well supported by all the chambers, and got funding voted by our Legislative Council. And I'm proud to say that after 1 year, exactly 1 year after this scheme was launched in April 2008, today we have, the figure I got last month was 196, but I've been told that today it has exceeded 200 factories, Hong Kong-owned factories, in the Pearl River Delta, engaging our funding to do cleaner production. It's a dollar-for-dollar matching scheme. Now we have over 200 factories subscribing to this scheme, despite the economic downturn or the sort of unfavorable business environment. And yet these firms are coming forward using this scheme, and also upon success, they will also be demonstrating their success to their counterparts, which is one of the conditions of this subsidy scheme. So going green does not confine to the general business sector. It goes into the individual households. Perhaps when we pledged that we'll move Hong Kong into the low-carbon economy in last year's policy address, one of the very important features in this policy is by reducing our carbon footprint. And in the case of Hong Kong, there is a very effective way to reduce our carbon footprint is by focusing on our energy. Because 2 figures speak for itself. One is 63% of our carbon emission for the entire city comes from our electricity generation. And 89% of electricity are being used and consumed in a building like this, lighting, aircon, elevators. So building energy efficiency or building energy conservation is a key to reducing our carbon footprint. Now that 63, 89 figures is a very remarkable one. When I was in America, I think the US equivalent figure was 40 and 71. But a city like Hong Kong, which actually is a city of buildings, we actually rely so much on our electricity. But electricity creating carbon emission aside, they also cost us a lot. So there is tremendous sense for conserving energy and also sort of making savings in our electricity consumption. So we are actually spending no less than 1 billion Hong Kong dollar in this project, half of which goes to a dollar-for-dollar matching scheme that has enrolled since 8th of April. Half of that money is in fact money that government will spend on our own building. So we are setting examples in the government sector and also using a dollar-for-dollar scheme to support the community in doing it. Now, since the scheme rolled out on the 8th of April, it's just slightly more than 2 months, we have got over 400 applications. So the problem I'm worrying is whether I need to sort of knock on the financial secretary's door for asking more, or rejuggling with the money within my environmental and conservation fund to make do if the response is so good. But I think the most important is, other than money, is two things. One, it generates business opportunity for auditors, electrical engineers, property managers who are able to join the profession to help owners in transforming the building. So this scheme, this $1 billion would create more jobs for professional technical people. And more important, it will hopefully create a mindset change that we all focus on things around us. Small things can make a difference, not just for cleaning up the air, greening the city, but also helping to reduce your electricity bill, which is helpful in this time of the year. So greener and sustainable waste management facility is the major challenge in the current term of the government is not to talk more about what we do, it's actually how to embark on things that can make a change. We are lacking behind in a number of infrastructural facilities in supporting a greener city, including the upgrading of harbor treatment, including the sludge treatment facility that we need to build, including the incinerator that can better handle our waste in addition to landfills. So these are projects that are lining up that would create jobs for the time being, would invite technology from all over the world, and also would definitely could improve the city layout, the investment for the future. Now, there are also important milestones whereby, not just by charging the community to go greener, but using schemes like the plastic shopping levy as a tool to change people's mindset. In this regard, we are talking about every person in the city can sort of join us by bringing their own bag and save the 3 plastic shopping bags that they dispose every day. Now, with our determination, after 2 long years of battles, we managed to have that piece of legislation enacted. I shouldn't claim any victory because we are losing out to the mainland who have this done in 1st of June last year. When I visit San Francisco, they have also done it in a year ahead of us. But I'm encouraged by the fact that now we have got this piece of legislation as the initial program in the full range of product responsibility scheme. Local audience heard me saying in the radio that, well, electrical appliances might come next. We are working on our eco park. So with all these momentum, hopefully we are finding ways to better recycle, reuse some of the waste we are disposing of. But for Hong Kong to go greener, it doesn't serve much purpose if we are not able to change our economic hinterland, which is in fact part of Hong Kong's economic being. But great encouragement has been taken from the leaders in both regions to engage in building the Pearl River Delta into the greenest part of the mainland. Now, this is not just a statement because, well, for this idea, which was initiated in the first meeting between Donald Tsang, our chief executive, and Wang Yang, the party secretary for Guangdong, in last March, it has now come into the outline development plan for Guangdong up to 2020. It's something being written down in this very important planning document. And the next goal would be to have it written in the 12th five-year plan. So this idea has now been endorsed by the central government and also fully supported by the 2 governments on the two sides of the boundary. Now, this is just the beginning, because this will open up certainly a new parameters for planning, developing our region. It will provide new impetus to the economic development that will guide this region in the next stage of economic reform. The region has enjoyed 30 years of very rapid economic development, but also leaving behind some of the problems that we do not like to see. Certainly, this momentum would need to carry on, not by the dollar sign, but also the green sign. So I hope this will mark at the beginning of a new form of collaboration between Hong Kong and the mainland, and also for the nation. So works to do in this regard is, of course, how to renew and take on board a new kind of arrangement for cleaner air beyond 2010 to sort of fill in the blanks when we say a green PRD, quality living area, what does it mean? And also how to sort of pool resources and policy together. So hopefully, I think the aim is to have this done in a sustainable manner. Talking about green opportunity, of course, on the Hong Kong side, in infrastructural investment amount to no less than 30 billion in the next 3 to 5 years, including this range of infrastructural system, some of which are quite fascinating, like the district cooling system, which has enjoyed quite a lot of applause when we sort of rolled this out. We are now working not just in this district cooling system, but also talking about whether the whole Kai Tak area can go greener in terms of planning input. And likewise, whether we should do the same in West Kowloon development area, and also some other projects. But one thing that is mushrooming is whether we have sufficient talent, expertise in supporting Hong Kong to go green. Now, in this regard, there are in existence of a lot of professionals who are engaged in this job. But obviously, if this city and if the region go greener, I believe environmental consultancy or anything that can rediscover the green DNA within each and every profession is a big challenge. I see smiling face from Mr. Young, who works in the property management sector, but has been using the green concept for their property, for their clubhouses, to lead on a healthy living and green living. So it's a happy marriage between property management and green technology. So I think there is no limit to this. Now, SIPA 5 also provide Hong Kong environmental companies to go into Guangdong to do business. We have, in April, also secured national government's consent that in the area of clean development mechanism, CDM, that Hong Kong company can qualify to the mainland company in CDM. So that itself is a big business opportunity, because about 1/3 of all CDMs in the world will be happening in mainland, and Hong Kong can play a part. And Hong Kong has this fine tradition of not just working alone, but also partnering with business sector around the world. So perhaps that, I won't go into all these dollar signs, which you can easily pick up from newspaper, trade general every day. So I think the message is simple. The message is simple that, well, this is a time that Hong Kong sees ourselves as a green city, but we should be going greener. And there is a concrete plan for us to work together with the region to make us the greenest part of mainland. So where can we sort of work together? And I believe the Eco Expo would be a golden opportunity where we can pool business people together, bring international firms to Hong Kong to meet face-to-face with mainland companies, mainland officials. A week ago, I have been issuing letters of invitation to my counterparts in the mainland around the 9 provinces and also in Beijing. I will also be issuing letters to my counterparts of C40, where Hong Kong is now a member. I am also receiving some very interesting suggestions that, well, perhaps, for instance, the Eco Expo shouldn't be just a business forum. Why shouldn't it be a public forum where ordinary Hong Kong people can go there? So TVB is helping us to turn one of the days as a public day, where the community can also go in there. You know that I've been toying with the Japanese electric vehicles. I believe there will be more. Mitsubishi will have some competition because, well, there will be a certain section where we'll devote to EV, not just the cars, but also the technology. There will be interesting partners. I was talking to Dr. Jane Goodall, the famous expert on chimpanzee support. I was inviting her and her institution to have a kiosk in our center because, well, that's is also part of the green movement. Well, Hong Kong being a city so green with so much sort of natural reserve. Actually, I think there are opportunities for us to promote the public education through different international organizations. So it will be a fascinating time. I'm not asking you to subscribe to Eco Expo. I'm asking you to act fast because, well, this year we're still hosting it in Asia Expo near airport. I'll be asking Fred Lam to consider whether it should come out to Wan Chai with the more support that we are getting. But I take this as an opportunity where we can sort of all network and send home the message that, well, Hong Kong is getting greener, but we can only get greener with all the support, participation by people from all walks of life, whether you are in the business sector, whether you are representing your government here, or whether you're just ordinary citizen of the community. But catch this moment that, well, it's time for us to act together. So I'm happy to hear your views, comments, or any good suggestion that we can turn the function even more successful. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's interesting to hear the discussion of wanting to be the greenest part of China. I'd like to ask the question of why not the greenest part of this region of Asia? Surely that is also another wonderful goal to have with the C40 component. What's your response or comments on that, Edward?
Thank you. Well, Hong Kong pride itself is Asia's world city. So yes, we must do good, not just for the city alone, but also playing our part in this region and also in the world. The reason for focusing ourselves and have an engagement with Guangdong and the national government to make Guangdong or Pearl River Delta the greenest part of China is important in a number of sense. A, we have long had a very good relationship economically, socially, politically, and also environmentally between Hong Kong and Guangdong. We must further that organic partnership. And also, when you look at the investment, we are the biggest investor in this part of the region. We're the biggest exporters. We are the hub. So we also have a part to play in making this area the most sustainable one in every sense of the word. So that is where we start. In mainland, I think, for mainland China, I think the country is also facing exactly the same problem as we do here. It's how to strike a balance between economic development and sustainable development. So that's why you hear these days a national policy focusing on 科学发展观, the scientific progressive development, which is in fact similar to the progressive development or sustainable development that we are advocating. So facing the challenges worldwide, particularly in tackling climate change and sustainable development, I think I can see that there is every urge for the national and the regional government to focus on this. And I think Hong Kong do have a part to play. That by investing and by reinvesting in greener, we believe we can make a change. Now, there is also a political element that we're under the one country, two systems. We need to sort of make the best out of this arrangement by not just talking to the provincial government, but also the national government to ensure that this collaboration will be fully recognized at both region and national level. But what you said doesn't conflict with the plan we are making. If we are able to turn the Pearl River Delta into the greenest part of the region, I see no reason why this would also contribute to the regional and international sort of effort. Because together with Pearl River Delta, economically, we are in fact very sizable entity. And therefore, responsibility also on our shoulder to make it a more sustainable part.
This is a very key part if you want a sustainable environment.
Yes. In a city, in a market economy like Hong Kong, one would believe that, well, this would be the community who would expect the least from government, because if the market works, then, well, people would expect a smoother sailing. Now, on the part of the government, for the figures I've shown you, there is a clear determination that we see this is not just government spending. We see it as government investment. Now, to cite you an example, the building energy project that I mentioned, which followed the same footprint of the cleaner production, we're using the same formula, dollar for dollar subsidy. Now, that's, in fact, when you look at it, that's the maximum government support one would expect, because by spending more than $1, actually, government will be contributing lion's share instead of sort of a fair game where the user, the ultimate beneficiary, actually contribute their part. So when you look at this, in fact, it's a clear demonstration that what the Hong Kong government, the Hong Kong SAR government, is willing to put this dollar in, not just as a spending, but also as an investment, because we believe it is not a dollar spent, because this dollar would make a dollar saved if that can save the electricity consumption. It's a dollar invest for a greener city, because that would reduce the carbon footprint. Now, I've been comparing similar schemes elsewhere. Some cities do it on a revolving loan, which also makes sense because, well, on energy saving, if you're able to put in some new equipments, eventually it will save. So by lending you some money and pay back through saving, it can achieve the same effect. But looking back, I think we believe we have been doing the right thing, that, well, we are caught in this economic downturn where people might be reluctant or hesitate to dig deep into the pocket. So the dollar that government is contributing would help to do the tipping point, to trigger people sort of willing to spend their own dollar. But eventually, it's not just the government's dollar that can make the change. It's the saving, it's the investment return that will be brought as the momentum for further changes. So I think, well, that summarizes, well, what government can do and whether there is strong government commitment on that. Now, the biggest challenge is, do we expect government to continue to pump money, spending every dollar on every project? I don't think the community would expect that. But the important is $450 million as a start. Would that be able to make a difference? Now, the first 2 months experience tells me that with 400 applications coming in, I'm quite encouraged. And with the $93 million spent across the boundary on cleaner production, with 200 firms joining despite the economic climate, I can sense the support. Now, if this works, then I think the next momentum would be the good experience, the success, the saving, the mindset change can sustain this movement. So I think what we need is government taking the lead, but also sort of drawing the community and business support. I think that might be the formula, but I'm happy to listen to some other people's experience as well. We are seeing a lot of new partners as we pursue the green agenda. I mentioned property managers. Now, again, using the same experience in promoting the building energy efficiency, we have made the right decision that after we got the money, we held back for 6 months before we actually invite application. That 6 months was the time we spent in inviting partners, architects, engineers, property managers, equipment suppliers, to join us, to allow themselves to be trained up, so-called trained up, as auditors. And it was, in fact, 6 months well spent in engaging change agents. Now, these are, in fact, professional and technical people or key engines where we can employ in making the changes. Because in Hong Kong, we have 2 million households, 40,000 buildings. It's impossible for government to go out to every single sort of a household to ask them for consent for changing the electrical appliances in the building. So the change agents who at the moment might not be in the forefront in the green movement could easily transform or equip themselves to be our partners. And in fact, this would have no barrier. So one key word I've been using in talking to some of the media is how different professions to find and discover their green DNA and turn this into a business opportunity. We have seen the big picture where the dollar sign speaks for itself that, well, probably Hong Kong, Pearl River Delta, and China as a whole might be the biggest green market now, tomorrow, and the years to come. But is the business there for everybody to capture? What government would do would be try to open this door. For instance, allowing under SIPA 5, allowing our experts to go into the mainland. By opening door on CDM, making sure that Hong Kong company will enjoy this opportunity by partnering with international firms, but also sort of to make sure that everybody got the message that this is the place where we can work together in going green.
After the plastic bag levy, I mean, would you be thinking about elimination of styrofoam food containers? Is there a policy on biodegradable packing?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, if you look at the list of things that we try to better recycle or reuse, it can be a long one. Plastic shopping bag would just be one of which, and like used tire, electrical and electronic appliances, packaging materials, and including the foam you mentioned, well, a lot of things. And the question is, in what way we can sort of eliminate this long list or try to turn it into recyclable material. There's always a permanent struggle whether we should go for public education, which always true, which need to be done all the time, to voluntary scheme where we engage retailers or supplier or producer to do it voluntarily, or in some people's mind, more draconian measures like legislating to ban or to charge or to eliminate. 2 years ago, when I took up my portfolio, I have a sense where legislation is always difficult, which is natural because, well, I will be the one who fight this struggle together with my team. But after the last 2 years, I think, well, there may not be any shortcut to imposing certain legislation to require such reuse. But having said that, A, that we need to prioritize, and B, other schemes like voluntary scheme or public education are not mutually exclusive. So my plan is, after plastic shopping bag, I'll be working on electrical and electronic products, which is part of our life. Hong Kong people like new things. You can't stop people from buying, but if people can buy new things at the same time recycle the workable, usable things, why not? It can be brought to the people who are in need, like what we are doing with the 2 NGOs working for us in recycling computers, TVs, and household appliances, or to sort of dismantle them so that they can get good disposal. So I'm working on this, but in parallel, I'm also having the support of the business sector that there are voluntary schemes on recycling or the recollection of electrical appliances financed by the business sector, by the retail and wholesale sector. So I think perhaps the two can go in parallel. Then, other than electrical appliances, what are other items? I'm open to suggestions. The challenge is in Hong Kong. The difficulty is not so much in recollecting them, it's how to put them into the reuse and recycling. That would require a lot of support from NGOs, for instance. And also, in the absence of a strong industrial base, there may perhaps be doors need to be opened across the boundary if there could be up to standard recyclable industry. So that's the area that we are working on. So it's a long list, it's a big challenge, but I take encouragement from the enactment of the law for the plastic shopping bag. So do help me in promoting this. Come 7th of July, and save your 50 cents. Bring your own bag.